This episode is brought to you by Prime. What if you had one more chance with the one that got away?
Sam.
You came home.
Based on the best-selling novel from Carly Fortune. Every Year After follows childhood friends Sam and Percy as they reunite in the dreamy, nostalgic lakeside town of Barry's Bay.
Love can be hard to find. So if you're lucky enough to find that person, never let go.
A second chance at first love. Every Year After. Streaming June 10th, only on Prime.
Study and play come together on a Windows 11 PC. And for a limited time, college students get the best of both worlds. Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
Where is Daredevil? I'm right here.
Don't miss the return of Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again.
So what's next?
I feel liberated.
We're gonna take this city back.
Over-medicated.
In an all-new season, now streaming only on Disney+.
They're hunting us. It's time we started hunting them.
I can work with that.
This should be tons of fun.
Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again, now streaming only on Disney+.
Hi, Stephen Pearcy from Rat. You're listening to Jay Scott. The Hook Rocks.
Hey, I don't know why you tried to break me. I guess I should have known right from the start. No matter what you say, you'll never shake me. I gave you everything, not just my heart. I gave you all my blood, my sweat, my tears, my deepest, darkest fears. This is for you. All I do. This is for you. But all those needs never seem to meet on runway streets. I waste my time just trying to please you. All my blood, my sweat, my tears, my deepest, darkest fears. This is for you. Nothing seems to do. I've been a fool for you right from the start. I even gave you this song.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Jay Scott. It is The Hook Rocks. It is the Ultimate Rock Community Podcast. Thanks for tuning in once again. We are part of the Pantheon Podcast Network, a great network of music-related podcasts, something for all different types of music interests. We have it on Pantheon. I always mention a lot of my friends at the beginning of the show, like Mac with the Ugly American Werewolf in London podcast, Martin Popoff, the rock historian, Mistress Carrie out in Boston, Tom and Zeus on the Shout Out Loudcast, the great Kiss podcast, as well as Carmen Apiece and Vinny Appice on the Hangin' and Bangin' podcast, and Decibel Geek. So check out Chris and Aaron as well. Don't forget to follow The Hook Rocks wherever you do your social media, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Just search up The Hook Rocks. And we've had some great shows for you over the last couple of months. We've had Joe Satriani. We've had Mark Tremonti. We just had Todd Dammit Kearns, which was a great conversation, as well as some new music spotlights like Native Sons, Stone Broken, Deep Fall, and many others. So check out those, as well as some great commentary as well. We just had our audio expert Skylab on talking about how to improve your acoustics in your own home for free. You don't have to spend a lot of money. Just do little things differently with your stereo or speaker placement, and you can improve your sound immensely. So check that out, as well as our live album review with the Recidivists, where we did Kiss Alive. So check that out too as well. And we are going to be talking with someone who hasn't been on the show for almost 3 years. He's been busy. He's been rocking out. I think he's got an off day today, or maybe he's just, chilling out before a show. And that is the guitar player from Classless Act, Griffin Tucker. What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing great. We played 3 stadium shows, and it's been a dream so far. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I saw you in Chicago open up for Dorothy and Joyous Wolf. And that was the first time I saw you live. You actually just kicked it with the guitar. It was actually just awesome. Fantastic show. And now you're touring with legends. You're touring with legacy artists that are, one's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. One will probably be there eventually. But what's this experience like for you for the past year? Because, you had your own band, and then you moved out to LA, and then you found yourself in Classless Act. So walk us through what transpired over the past year.
Well, this whole experience has been so wild, and it's been I've just been having so much fun. But it started, the reason why I moved out to LA, or I guess the way it started, was our manager, Rick Canny, was scrolling through TikTok one day and happened to find one of my videos. And it was just like this little video of me doing like a perfect pitch challenge. Some of my friends were like played a note on a piano, and I like tell him what it is. And he asked me if I wanted to join the band. And so for the past year, we've just been working and get, perfecting our craft and our chemistry together. And we just finished our first tour, at least major tour, around the country with Dorothy. And that was so fun. It's really my first like time really touring for that long. And even especially in a van, it was the first time I'd ever like lived out of a van, But now we're doing the stadium tour, and we've only played 3 shows, but it's been just the most savory taste I could ever expect to have. And the people working here are so nice, and of course the band is amazing as always. So it's really been a lot of fun.
What was that like? I mean, you put out a couple of songs under your own band, and now here you are. Classless Act has been on the LA scene now for a few years. Lots of changing parts over the last 4 or 5 years, I want to say, but they built a reputation on the Sunset Strip and playing in Southern California. Now they have an album coming out. You guys have an album coming out on the 24th, I believe. And you're on tour, you're doing all this stuff. Like, what's the whirlwind been like? I mean, this is like, this is a huge step. I mean, a year ago before this all happened, were you thinking like this was even a possibility?
To get discovered by someone like our manager, to be in a band that's going on the stadium tour, I would have never imagined it a year ago. But at the same time, I don't think 5 years ago I would have imagined being on like shows like The Voice or American Idol, or being in all these different steps are so you really just can't predict them, and you just kind of have to be going with the flow and be ready for anything. And just I was and I still am in a very fortunate position to be in this band, because my parents are very supportive, and they helped me through the transition from Texas to California. So I feel very blessed that I not only was able to have the experience of being a solo artist and to have that in my toolkit, and also to have the support to be able to make it out to California to join a great band like this.
What's it like going from doing your own thing to now being in a collaborative effort with a band?
Well, it's there's just so many different experiences and influences to pull from, I guess, because with being a solo artist, I only listen to so many bands. I've only really delved into certain sounds, but like when it comes to creating with different guys who are so individually creatively driven, like Derek loves like Tom Waits and David Bowie and Pink Floyd. Franco loves Queen, and he loves like Queens of the Stone Age as well. There's just so many different experiences and so many different influences and bands to pull from. And if you ask like another member, like, hey, what should I do for like this part of the song? They will give you like something completely different that you wouldn't be expecting, as far as like how to write songs and how to approach different things. So it's been really cool. And also what's really new is that I'm not I'm not the lead singer in this band. Derek Day, who's an amazing singer, is singing lead for this band, and he's incredible. But also, he was a guitar player before he joined this band, and he's an incredible guitar player. But now he's like handing that off to Dane and I. So we're all kind of like, this is kind of like, it's a little bit new for all of us, but after doing it for about a year, we've all kind of like learned our positions, and we're really, it's getting really tight, and we really like where all of us are. So it's cool. It's cool to kind of be a part of a band and not just be like a guy and some other dudes, you know. It's been a lot of fun.
What's that like, trying to merge yourself in a band that's been around for, a bit? Granted, they haven't released any material until now, but you're stepping into something that is pre-existing. Was there a time period or a period of time where you're trying to get your footing within the band with each other?
Absolutely. I think that goes for any band that you join, any people that you meet. You just have to find your dynamic as far as what your friendship is going to be like, how far how involved your friendship is going to be. But yeah, I mean, like, these guys have known each other for at least, I think Chuck was in the band for at least a year before I joined. So they were really like locked in for about like a year before I even entered the picture. So it was definitely like it took a little while to really figure out like what was my place in the band and how far could I go, and the possibilities of like our chemistry, of like how I was going to get along with the guys. But I mean, before too long, the more shows we started playing, we just you learn a lot about each other, especially under the pressure of like a live show. And we played at this little club in Marina del Rey, California, and we played there like every week. And we just learned a lot about each other and the way that we'd work together through that. So it was definitely, it's all new experiences, but it's been pretty cool to get to start that over, instead of like, cause I've worked with other people for like years, but it's been cool to start that over. And especially with these guys are so nice, and they were so welcoming in the beginning. And we just, we're just so excited to be playing music with each other.
What's that like, developing that chemistry, and when do you know when you have it?
There's never, I guess there's, well, for Derek, I guess I can't speak for Derek because Derek told me later, but the first time we all got in a room together probably would have been last April, I want to say. We all got into this rehearsal room, and of course they told me to learn like 12 songs. I ended up learning 9. And so we got in there, started playing the songs together, and Derek told me that like he knew within like the first 20 minutes that I was going to be like the lead guitarist in the band. I always find myself being insecure about my abilities, just because like I'm always trying to improve. I'm always trying to get to like the next step of like the next big thing that I'd like to do as far as playing. So I guess I've never really had like a specific moment, but eventually there was just like when I started being around the guys more and more, it just started feeling more natural. And we just became like friends who also play music together. So it's been pretty cool kind of forming that friendship and that relationship with these guys, because we're on the road together, and of course being on the road together, you learn a lot about each other. But it's been pretty cool learning all about these guys. They're pretty amazing.
Did you upgrade from the van for the stadium tour?
No, we're in the same little Sprinter van as we were in the last tour. And it's it's not quite a house, but you can make it a home if you put your heart into it,
As far as the opportunity for the stadium tour, here you are joining this band. When was the first inkling that this was a possibility?
Oh my goodness. I remember when I first got that first message, I initially thought it was a scam. Like I get this message and it's like, you want to join this band that's in California and that's going on this giant tour. And I'm like, I'm in Texas. Who would possibly want me to go out and join a band in California? And then once I really figured out that this guy was like, that Rick was like really like this important guy in the business. Then I really had to figure like, was I really going to be able to make the move from Texas to California? And it was tough in the beginning. Just because like, it seems like everything's more expensive in California to afford as far as places to live and eat and all that stuff. But eventually as we kept trying it out and cause it took a year of like brewing this whole thing for it really to take off. I just, my parents have been just so supportive, and my mom has been coming out to LA with me for a while, since I've never really lived outside of like my parents' home for as long as I've been alive. So I've never really had that experience, and especially with going out and touring in a van, it's been pretty different. But I've been surrounded by so much support for my whole life, and especially for this past year, my parents have been so instrumental in making this happen, and I really owe it all to them.
You were in Texas prior to this happening. Obviously people talk about LA and the music business, and Nashville in the music business. Was this outside of you joining Classless Act? Was it ever going to be a possibility that you were going to move out to LA?
It was always in the back of my mind. Because with my solo thing, I had gotten it to this place of like, I had just found like a group of guys, and we were like, gigging around, and I was like, okay, this works. Like maybe if I really want to be like a rock star, someone will find me and we'll take this band out to California. But I never would have expected it to just like happen so out of the blue. Because I would think like we just keep working and working and working and making albums and albums. But the truth is that like you can't like somehow, you can't just like be a rock star out of a place like Dallas, Texas. Even though that would be like pretty cool. I think a lot of people, like even like Vince Neil, he has his own like private plane now, or private jet or something, so that he can, and he's he's been working for like 40 years. And so I guess his dream has been to like be able to fly from his home in Nashville to wherever he needs to go in order to like, do stuff with Motley Crue. But at least in the beginning, you have to be where, these important people are, like our manager and of course the guys in this band. So it's important to be where they are. Because if, you just have to be selling yourself. Luckily, our manager found me, but if I didn't really have him, then I would still be just like working in Texas and really not going anywhere. But with the help of Rick, he's been so we wouldn't be on this tour without him. So it really takes a village.
Was that hard to give up? I mean, obviously you're in a band that is on the verge of success with their album. You're building up an audience, but coming from something that you built yourself, that's a big change, and that's hard to give up because you've put your heart and soul in it. What was that like, kind of putting that behind you and moving to LA and joining Classless Act?
The thing that I realized pretty quickly after I got the call was that this Classless Act was going to be, still is way bigger than I can even comprehend. This aura and this group of people that are supporting us is so much bigger than I could have ever possibly built around my own solo project. And I just realized that I had to take the big step. And my bandmates in my solo project were so supportive. they knew that like if they would have gotten this opportunity, they would have jumped on it immediately. And so they were just so supportive. And I realized that like this was going to be like the big thing, that if I really wanted to play music, play music for a living and be able to do that and not just have it as like a side thing, then I really needed to be in this band. And I'm just that extra lucky that the guys are amazing and the songs are amazing. So I feel really, really blessed.
Derek Day has his solo stuff that he kind of does on the side outside of Classless Act. Is there ever, or do you think there will be an opportunity to kind of revisit what you were doing prior to this as kind of a side project?
I don't know. I think both Derek and I are kind of taking a break from our solo, like as far as like writing for our solo projects, which is really like the biggest drive for our solo projects. I know from time to time, Derek does like whenever he's back home and classes may be like taking a break from touring, he might like go out and like play like a little trio gig, every once in a while. But especially for now, while we're touring, we're really focusing all of our energy and all of our drive on this band Classless.
So the tour begins. You're touring with Motley Crue, Def Leppard, Joan Jett, Poison. Have you had a chance to interact with any of the guys?
Not with many people like from the actual bands themselves. I briefly spoke to Nikki Sixx like right before he went on stage. That was super cool. But just meeting like some of the tour managers and some of the people like that work behind the scenes for these bands. And I, like some of these people have been in the business for years, and I'm so terrible with names, but I remember one of them, like you hear his voice, like being interviewed on like The Dark Side of the Moon. Because there's like these little like snippets of interviews in Dark Side of the Moon. And apparently like one of the guys who's like working like as a manager or something on this tour, you can hear his voice, and he's one of the nicest guys. All the people on this tour are so nice, and it's really just been a dream, not only to be able to play in places like these giant places with so many different people that we would have never been able to reach otherwise, but also to get to work with these people who have been doing it for such a long time. They've just made us feel so welcome and made us feel like that we somehow deserve to be there. And of course, I'm just happy to be playing music, but it's just been a dream so far.
When you see these legendary artists on stage and performing, and Def Leppard's been around since I was a kid, Motley Crue, they all have. What are you learning from this celebration of music when you see these bands on stage?
I guess, well, actually last night we were in Orlando, and I got to like stand backstage, like right behind Tommy Lee as he was like performing like the first few songs. And you hear it all the time from these bands. Like it's, they love music just as much now as they did back then. But when you like see them like putting in the effort, like, like as far as I am away from like, I don't know, as far as like you are away, like talking to someone, seeing these people that you've learned from, you've learned how to like be a performer by watching these guys, or by or you've learned how to be a better drummer by listening to these legends play. It's just different when you're that close to them in person, watching them just play the music as they always did, but just to get to see it in person, it's a completely different feeling. And you just recognize the person that it takes to be able to do this for 40 years. If it's Motley Crue or Def Leppard or Joan Jett, and Poison for 40 years. It's been incredible to see those people and to kind of see like, I hope I can be like those guys one day, where I can say that I've been fortunate enough to play music for 40 years, and I would still be loving it just as much then as I am right now. That's something incredible, and that's something that I've always aspired to become in regards to my idols and, of course, these legends that are on this tour.
The showmanship alone is kind of a lesson, right? I mean, seeing these guys, you mentioned standing behind Tommy Lee and seeing that energy, not taking a night off. Is he still playing only half the show because of his ribs, or is he back on full time?
He's only playing like a few songs at the beginning of the set just because I remember because Rick Candy manages Tommy Lee. He's our manager as well. And he was telling me that Tommy was so bummed that he couldn't like play the full show because his doctor told him not to play at all. But if you're ever at one of the shows, he'll tell you like, he thought that his doctor was high because like he was not going to like be on the tour and not play drums, but he is playing a few songs and he's playing like nothing's wrong, which is even crazier. He's just playing like, he's just playing a Motley Crue show, but he's like, he cracked 4 of his ribs, but just goes to show the dedication.
Well, also too, just, being able to plow through either an injury or if you're not feeling good that day and having that energy, having that showmanship, like I said, just in the last couple minutes, that in itself, that showmanship, regardless of what's happening, is kind of like a lesson. They're teaching, you guys in Classless Act, like, hey man, it doesn't matter if you got a 100-degree temperature. It doesn't matter if you got 4 cracked ribs. The show goes on. That's right. Yeah. And thankfully Carfudis is filling in for Tommy. But yeah, I mean, especially with these stadium shows, like in the middle of like June in Atlanta, it was probably like 105 outside while we were playing, with the sun beating down on us. But when you're playing music and you're doing what you love, it really doesn't matter what's going wrong as long as you feel at home playing your instrument, or in Derek's case, singing and using his instrument. It just feels home. It feels like home wherever you are. And so I've definitely learned that the show must go on through any circumstances that you might be in. And it really doesn't matter like what's going on as long as you're able to play the music. And of course, I just feel so blessed to be in this position, to be able to be in this band and to get to go out and play these shows. So, 100-degree weather or a broken hand. It really doesn't matter what's going on as long as I get to play music. It's just, I feel so blessed. How'd you break your hand?
Oh, I lost a fight to a monitor. I basically it was actually like the warm-up show in Dallas that we played before we played our first stadium show. And I went down to my knees and I went for like a big strum or something like that. And basically I just punched a monitor and that'll do it. And I learned through that punching a monitor does not hurt the monitor. It only hurts yourself.
There's not a lot of give in those monitors.
No. Yeah. So I'm not planning on punching anything for the rest of my life now. But yeah, I mean, anything can happen, especially at these shows. Like cables can get unplugged or anything can happen, but we're living the dream, so the show must go on.
How's been the crowd reception for you guys?
The crowd reception, I mean, if one person is loving it, that's enough for me. But especially at this last show we just played in Orlando, it unfortunately got delayed because of weather. But by the end of our set, there were 21,000 people, and it really hit me whenever we'd stop a song, like whenever we hit the last note, and we'd just be like standing there or like tuning our guitars. I just like look out to the crowd, and I've never seen that many people in front of me probably ever in my life, but to see them like looking at like the band, that's just a feeling that I've never experienced before. But they've been, the crowds have been so energetic and so receptive, and they've made us feel like each stadium is like home, so we've, it's just been so incredible so far.
the band Classless Act to me is kind of a throwback to that era of Motley Crue and Def Leppard, in the sense that, seeing you guys in Chicago, the energy and the spectacle you create on stage, it's a lot of energy. It's, we went through a period of time in rock music where people kind of stared at their feet and didn't move around a lot. And it was refreshing to see you guys really be energetic, really move around, really kind of be showmen, because that has been lacking. Is that an effort that you guys are aware of doing, or did that just come organically, just come naturally?
Well, I think part of it is natural and part of it is purposeful, I guess. Because we can't help but at least move to some degree when we're playing. Even if we're like sitting down, we're tapping our foot or moving our head or like shaking our guitar or something like that. But there's that natural element to it, but there's also the purposeful, really performing to whatever audience, we get to perform in front of. And that involves really running around the stage. That's the part that's maybe purposeful, but we love what we do so much that we just have to at least move to some degree. So but we really wanted to be a band that you couldn't take your eyes off of. There's bands that you can close your eyes or look away and enjoy it just as much because the music is just that good. But we just wanted to put that little cherry on top of, the cake and really put on a show. So I guess part of it's natural and part of it's purposeful, but it's just something that we really, really wanted to do.
The album comes out this Friday. You've recorded before in the studio with your solo stuff and with the band previous to this. What was it like being in a studio with, guys that you are new to? You're developing a friendship, you're developing chemistry. Was that a different experience for you?
It was definitely different, but these guys have made me feel so welcome from day one. And I actually wasn't on most of this album, but especially on some of the singles, like Time to Bleed and Classless Act, those songs, I actually recorded at Franco's house. And we just sat in his bedroom, just doing it the old fashioned way. I know Motley Crue did their first album, super low budget, just using whatever they could. And of course you feel that energy through that, and just that youthful, just very raw energy about that. And of course, Franco and Derek and Chuck and Dane have been so just inspiring, just because they're different musicians and they're their own creative forces, and they give me little things to try and little things to maybe you should do that to end that little run maybe. And so especially I remember recording the Classless Act solo. That was really my first that's actually the big my big solo on the record is that solo. And I remember recording it a couple times and they were just whoa, I'm just they always make me feel like I'm an important part of the band. I'm an important part of the chemistry and the way that this, the way that the chemistry is, I guess. So it's been so fun recording, and I can't wait for y'all to hear the whole album. It's been such a big part of the past year for my life, and so I hope it'll be a big part for your life and for the people watching.
What's it like being on this album, coming out, being on this tour, the excitement that you have, and knowing that, all the work that you've done previously to this is now going to finally be out for people to hear, even though, you may not be on every song, but still, this is kind of like you and your coming out party too, as well, as along with the band.
It's, like I said, it's been such a huge, we've been playing these songs for especially in the beginning, we played these songs every single week at this little club. And it's been such a huge, there are children, if you will. I mean, Franco and Derek are really the biggest, creative forces behind most of the album when it comes to writing the arrangements and the lyrics and the melodies. And so it's like giving a part of you to your audience. Like it's whether it's like a little insight or whether it's your interpretation of the music that you grew up with, and taking that and like making it your own. It's the most important part about being an art. Well, I guess the second most important part. I guess the most important about being an artist is making your art and getting to express yourself and do that. But it's also getting to express that art and to release that expression to the world and your audience. So, and this album, it was recorded before, most of it was recorded before I even joined the band. So it's been in the works for such a long time. There's been so much time and effort that's been put into making this album a reality. And it's going to be really important to us for the rest of our lives, because this band is never going to release a debut album ever again. So it's really just, we hope that y'all love it as much as we've just poured our hearts into it for the past year. And we just hope that y'all love it just so much.
Was it important for you to have a creative spot on this album? You mentioned that, there's some songs that you're not on, but there are some that you are. But was that important for you to kind of have your touch on this album?
I guess the most important thing for me was that the writers of the song really feel like that the songs really were what they were envisioning in their minds. Because as a solo artist and as someone who's written songs of my own, and especially with being a solo artist, I would usually record like all the instruments myself, so that like my vision was always very clear, because I knew what I wanted and I could play it and make sure that it was the way that I wanted it. Even guys like Franco is aside from being a great bassist, he's an incredible guitar player, pianist, and he's also a great singer. And he could really do it all for like the songs that he writes. But with this being a band, we also want that element of like combining the 5 elements of Classless and incorporating that into each song, but also capturing that vision that started with like just a singular riff or a chorus that just comes out of nowhere and you just write down. So it's just always striking that balance of the production of it being like a full band, but also getting capturing that raw inspiration that made you want to write the song in the first place. So when it came to playing on a few of these songs, like Time to Bleed or Classless Act, I really wanted to tread lightly, because they spent so much time creating these songs and making these parts. And I didn't want to change them or make it not be what the song deserved. But especially like a song like Classless Act, Derek wrote the lyrics for that song with the help of like some outside writers and Franco. But he really, like, they really wanted me to like put my own spin, like especially like on the solo or on these riffs. And so they really made me feel like that I was going to be like the last little thing that the song needed for the particular songs that I was on. And I really don't think I would have done it if they didn't really seem comfortable with me just like putting my own stamp on it. But they really made me feel like my contribution to the song is really part of the song and not just like a little addition. It's like really, really integral to it. And I'm really thankful that they really appreciate, what I bring to the table, I guess.
Are you guys doing any dates in between shows like a lot of bands do? Or are you just doing this straight?
We're doing a few. We are, I honestly don't know if I can mention one, but we are doing a couple, I think like maybe 3 or 4. We're doing like little, like, I think theater shows actually. And I think we'll be announcing one very soon, coming up sometime, I think in July. So be on the lookout.
As far as doing this small tour prior to you guys getting on, the stadium tour and then touring with Dorothy, how much did that help you guys prepare for this huge opportunity for the band?
Well, for most of us, some of us like Derek has been on, he's been on like a few dates of certain tours, like with very, very huge acts like Steve Vai and Ted Nugent. But none of us had really like been like responsible for ourselves, and our tour managers are not necessarily, with all due respect to them, because they've been helping us so much. They'd never been tour managers before, like being on tour with us. And so it was a learning experience for all of us. And we were learning how to keep the machine keep the machine going, and make sure that every show was consistent. Consistency was the biggest learning experience for the Dorothy tour. We really learned, because we played the same songs every single show, and we wanted to make sure that the people in North Carolina got just as good of a show as the people in Georgia. And because we don't know when we're going to see these people again, because of course it takes a lot of driving, for us in a little van, just with a trailer hitch behind it. It's going to take a long time to get back there. So we just want to make sure that each show really counts whenever we get to play them. So that was really like the biggest thing that we learned on the small tour. And I don't think we really would have understood that had we not like been a part of that Dorothy tour. And it just helped us be that much more ready for something as such a big of a scale as the stadium tour.
How's the Led Zeppelin bootleg collection going?
Oh my goodness, it never ends. I love, because being someone who performs live, I love listening to my favorite band's live shows and kind of like picking out like, ooh, they were really into it for like this particular show, and maybe they were like phoning it in for like this one show, but then like they really worked it up for the next show and got it really going up. So I'm a very analytical person when it comes to listening to bands live. So I love getting to hear like all the different shows, all the different renditions of songs, especially when they're so improvisatory. I love hearing like the little like different things that they would throw in each night. So I guess the bootleg collection never ends.
I'm telling you, if you haven't picked it up yet, the shows Zeppelin did at the Forum in '77.
Listen to this, Eddie?
Yeah, listen to this, Eddie, and some of the other recordings. The drumming on that, Bonham's drumming, is just off the charts.
Oh yes, Song Remains the Same. He kicks off that show.
Oh, geez.
Probably the best drumming he's ever done in his life.
Like, he's playing the drums on Song Remains the Same, and he's going off. Like, where's he going with this? And then he just swoops back in on time without missing a beat. It's like you're kind of, and I love the fact that he plays on that edge where you're like, oh my God, is he going to be able to make it back after doing all this stuff? And he does every single time.
He was a master. He's my number one drummer of all time. There's so much. It's just a whole blend of like the jazz influences, but the heavy hands. Oh my gosh, his right foot. Ooh, it's just all of it. It's just so incredible, and I don't think anyone's ever really matched him. He's just incredible.
Griffin, it's been a blast talking to you again, and so glad that you did this, and so glad that you got this opportunity with Classless Act and being in this band and being on this tour.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Absolutely, man. Anytime. Everyone, that's Griffin Tucker. I'm Jay Scott. This is The Hook Rocks, the Ultimate Rock Community Podcast. Stay strong, stay healthy. We'll talk again soon. Take care.
back together.